Hello folks, this is Mr. Dan coming to you from the Landscape Design Classroom, and today I'm here to talk to you about starting on landscape planning and design. So planning comes first. Coming from a landscape design background, I have spent many years doing different types of landscape design for various different clients such as residential homes, commercial homes, industrial parks, theme parks, zoos. I've been around, I've pretty much done a little bit of everything. So the most important thing is starting to plan. So commercial landscape architects or designers can do the job. So everybody in this classroom has the capability of being a designer. So the things you're going to learn here over the next coming weeks and a few years is different types of design techniques, different ways to complete designs, whether it be by hand or on the computer, and everything that goes along into that. So we're going to make our own plans. We're the designers here. We're going to become our own landscape architects. And then everything starts with a plan. So if you don't have a plan for something, typically it doesn't come out that great. So here's some different ways you can make a plan. Freehand on paper, mechanical drafting. That's by drafting with your hand using T-square and pencil that we're going to be learning in here. And computer-aided design. So in this class, you're going to learn how to use AutoCAD and SketchUp, which are two computer drafting programs. We use those mixed together to really create interesting plans and 3D models. So drawing to scale. So a normal residential plan is about a quarter scale. So think of like a really large house. Now divide that into 4 quarters. We're going to take all that information and just jam it down into like a quarter size of that, probably even smaller. So for whenever we make these plans, a quarter inch would equal 1 foot. So whenever we get our rulers out, we'll take a look at a quarter inch on there, and that'll equal 1 foot on the page going across. So the 4 steps of design planning. First, you want to have your base plan, then your bubble plan, a concept plan, and your working plan. So let's take a little bit of time and look at each one. So the base plan, this shows the existing site. So if we took a look at the school here from above and put that out on paper, that could be a base plan that we work off of. We want to include site dimensions and physical features. That's where we put a scale on so that we know we're designing the scale. We want to show existing plants and trees, buildings, driveways, sidewalks, fences, all this other stuff too, power poles. We want to know where everything is at on this site. So when we start designing, we're going to need to know what we're going to remove and what we're going to add in. And we want to measure from a reference point. So in a later lesson, I'm going to show you how to take a plan view from Google Earth and expand that so that we can make drawings to scale. So for people in neighborhoods, for businesses, anything and everything we can get our hands on. So also on the base plan, you want to put the house walls, where windows are, where doors are. So when we look at a base plan, it's going to be directly from the top, looking straight down at it. We want to know where all those windows and doors are. We also want to know if there's any pools or decks on the property, tree leaf canopies, where are all the trees on site located, so we can know, so we need to know if we're going to design around those, if we're going to rip them out, if we're going to make them a part of the landscape itself. And then drainage, utility lines, and easements. Always call 411 whenever you're looking for any of that stuff so you know exactly where lines are. Shade and sunny areas, and then play areas, gardens, rocks, irrigations. We want to know everything. We want to know where every single thing is at on the site because we want to know what we're working with when we get into our design. So an example of a base plan here. So we have a lot of stuff going on. So if we take a look right here in the middle, we have our house. We have some lilacs down here. We have our pathways, sidewalk leading out from the house with some steps. We have a lot of different stuff going on. We have a nice garden up here. So what I'm saying is when we finally get our base plan, this is exactly what we want it to look like. We want it to be as detailed as humanly possible so that we know where every single thing is. So Next, we're going to move on to a bubble plan. Now, it's kind of a way of thinking on paper without getting too detailed. You want to start with several copies of the base plan or use tracing paper. We can lay a piece of trace over top of the plan. We can go to town on that. We can draw bubbles in saying where we want to put a nice new pool, where we want to put some sidewalks, where we want to see people going on property. So we're going to leave the details for later. So we're not going to just start drawing in really detailed plans because we're just making a bubble plan of it. So we want to sketch in the main areas: play areas, lawns, flower beds, gardens, anything and everything that your client wants. That's whenever we're going to start bubbling all this stuff in really quick so we can get an idea of where we want to place stuff on our plan. The concept plan. So this is starting to get a little bit more detailed. So you're going to build on your ideas from the bubble plan, and you're going to start adding the details. So what are the size of areas? Plannings to include, how's the land going to grade out? The deck design, walkways, fences, walls. Where are we going to put the basketball court at? You know, there's a lot of different things we can look at whenever we're starting to get our concept together. So first we need to create a bubble plan of where everything is going to go. Then we can start getting a little more sketchy with it, and we can start drawing things into scale. The working plan. So this is a finished, accurate, scaled out plan. You can also call this a master plan. If you get into the landscape architecture field, this will be the master plan, where you're going to see where everything is going, everything's spaced out equally. You might even get a technical plan with that as well. So construction can begin from this plan. List specific plants, where they go, and how many, what kind, what size, and where to put each plant. So two important terms to remember here: design, which is the blending of style and fundamental design principles, and style, the overall effect caused by design, unity, and coherence. So design is where you're blending different styles, and style is the overall effect that you're looking at whenever you're looking at a space. So when I redesigned my own personal house, I wanted to have an Asian type of aesthetic to the outside of the house. So that would be putting in different types of grasses, Japanese maples, Hinoki cypresses, different types of stone patterns, different boulders, like anything that I could make my house to have that Asian aesthetic to it. That's what I was looking for. So you guys will get to see that at some point in the classroom. And it's just a certain look. Can be formal or informal. You don't have to have a super zoned in style like an Asian aesthetic. You can just have something, you know, like a normal Pennsylvania house that has natural plantings around it. So styles can be varied. Some examples of styles include natural landscape, like I was just talking about, Japanese garden, kind of like what's around my house, cottage garden, or a formal garden. And it should fit the surrounding landscape. So even with houses in my neighborhood, I still wanted to create a plan that had that Japanese feel, but also kind of connected with the houses around it. I didn't want it to look like a theme park. I just wanted it to have a nice aesthetic appeal to it. And we're going to get into that and like how to achieve that without going overboard. An example of a formal garden. So when something's formal, it's also symmetrical, where it's equal on both sides. So if we would cut a line here down the middle and take a look at it from both sides, it would equal on the same side. So formal gardens typically have a lot of rigid edges on it. All the plantings are pretty much the same, and it just has a very like quality, professional look to it. An example of a Japanese garden I saw in one of our previous, and actually in our previous hardscapes or PowerPoint, was a garden with a lot of boulders in it. I don't have this in my backyard. I'm just saying, I would like to. But we also have different types of trees here, such as bonsais, a lot of rock outcropping plants, and a very nice, serene, and gentle area. So public versus private. So public areas, there's going to be your garbage and utilities, front street, driveway, front walk, maybe front entrance. In your private areas, that's more going to be more your gardens, play areas, decks, and patios. So now, whenever you get into public stuff like public gardens and play areas, that's a little bit different. So working out the details. Private and public areas should complement each other. So if you have a really nice public area in front of your house, you want to complement that to the backyard and so on. Your entire landscape should be a reflection of the same style or the style that you put together for around your house. So a good design will create good style. You want different spaces that need to be connected. So if you have a really strong set of plantings in the front yard that you can relate into the backyard, that really just brings it all together. And then consider all the senses: fragrance, color, texture, light, and sound. So when you're the landscape designer, you bring a lot of things together, even if it's putting sound boxes in the back. Are you trying, what kind of feeling are you trying to create? Are you bringing water into the equation here whenever you're designing? You know, really when it comes to landscape design, the sky's the limit on what you want to do with it. So the bottom line here, the base plan describes the existing site. The bubble plan identifies general landscape areas. The concept plan is going to add more details of the same size and placement. And the working plan is going to include detailed instructions on how to complete that project. So once we get deeper into especially the working plan or the master plan, we're going to start looking at more of construction drawings, planning plans, you know, some things to complement it to make it easier for not only you to install it, but in case you're working for somebody that's installing it for you, making it easier for them to do. So that is the end of my presentation on design elements. I get really excited whenever I talk about this stuff because this is definitely my wheelhouse along with installation. So if you guys have any questions at all on this PowerPoint or any of the assignments and assessment to go along with that, please get in contact with me down in the classroom. Have a great day.